Grammy Marion said that her mom would never go in the sun, like just would not go in the sun.
My mother either. Never. No way. He was very protective of going into the sun. So, they knew.
So unto me the things unseen, faith like a grain of mustard seed.
My mother had an album with all her relations down south, and some of them were dark skinned. And I'd ask her about it, and she never would answer me. Persons of color, they got hung in a tree. My sister Marion always insisted saying that she was French. My mother was part African and part Indian.
Anything that could be a perceived weakness, people try to hide.
I don't think I'd hide that.
No,
I don't
I
believe
think
it's a weakness.
it's a Donnelly perspective.
Oh,
I mean, just fill in the blank with whatever you feel uncomfortable with.
oh, Marion did that, Well, she was just following in her mother's footsteps, In other words, if she got by with it all this time, then I will.
This didn't come out until my sister did like a family tree thing. I was at a golf outing with them. I was up in Albany, and we're having the lunch or whatever, the catered lunch. And when I did my DNA, I'm 10% black. She goes and she screams out in the place, "We're black!" I lost it.
And that my mother, she never wanted to be associated that she was actually part black.
Mulatto?
No,
I don't know. I know part black is mulatto.
I know something else.
Creole?
Like Creole.
Is that a thing?
That is something. She never be associated with she would be part Creole, but she was part Creole.
I won't be happy on the sea axis. I won't be happy on the Z axis. I won't be happy on the Z axis.
Is Audrey Lee Piro. I grew up in Monroe. I wanted to go to Campty because somebody had passed away and I wanted to go with them. They were going. He said, no, he said, you can never go. Don't you ever go there. I will not allow you to go there. Nothing was ever told why and all. And so growing up, in the back of my mind, I'm going to Campty. I want to find out why I can't go. And so years later, as I got older, I did. I went, just to see. I didn't see anything because I didn't know what I was looking for then.
You provided for me from seed to tree. My faith now can't be shaken.
I grew up in Campty. It was extremely hard. We were discriminated against. Back in the day, whenever I grew up, the schools in Campty, the old high schools still stand in Campty, but it's been closed down for years. People of color, Black, Native American, Hispanic, any people of color were not allowed to go to school with the little white children up until the 60s. And then that changed. And it was up until then, we were not allowed to go to school with the little white children. We were taught mainly by the Catholic nuns. We didn't have school buses like they have this day and time. We had an old pickup truck with a homemade bed built on it. In the back of that old truck, the boys would The girls get to ride in the front. Travel down Campy Bayou Road all the way to Black Lake. Well, that's a dirt road. In the summertime, when it's hot and dry, you get in the back of this truck with this old homemade bed on it. Running down that road, it forms a suction and pull that dust right back up in there where you're sitting. And when you get to school, your hair is white, the brows are white, your shirt. You do this right here. Yeah, and go on about your business.
It was hard on them, so they either tried to keep it hush hush, and some were lighter skinned, and some so that the ones lighter skinned could get jobs, and also the parents didn't want them to talk about where they came from, but it was they just all got treated different. And like Audrey told me that Papa's told her never to carry Audrey when she was little, never carry her down to Natchitoches. I think it's probably from his experience down there. And I asked a lot of them because so many of them migrated to Columbia, which is about 30 miles from here, to Louisiana, to Monroe, Schwartz, and Bastrop, and Oak Grove.
They were mistreated. I think things were said. They weren't treated, like Chris said, as equals, in that aspect. It could have been the birth certificate, because I know some of my brothers had a problem with that. When the birth certificates were viewed on the race that had black, and it bothered them very much so. And one of them went and had it changed. He had to go through some legal terms, but he had it changed and all. So that could have been it, because back then they were either other or black, because most of the midwives, when they go in, they wouldn't know the colors because some of the people were darker than others. Mulatto was a lot down here, and it was a mixture of races together, because it was just like New Orleans is a melting pot.
This is what took to get his birth certificate, was when we're running the business, and they're like, yeah, and we need their birth certificates too. And I was like, do we have Dad's birth certificate? And we had to order it from the county. So I remember like getting a copy of it, going like, oh my God. I was like, this is colored. That's not, 15-year-old me went, that's not even a thing. What was that?
My name is Robert Caldwell, and I'm a citizen of the Choctaw Apache community of Ebarb. Indio being native at that time, but then that system was a low rank, kind of black-white binary of the U.S. South. And so to be darker meant to be closer to black or African. There are stories in my family where the brown paper bag test was applied. I've mostly heard that from Creole of color communities around Natchitoches, but it also happened in Sabine Parish, where even within the same family, some people had to sit in the balcony in the movie theaters, which was the colored section, and the others were allowed to go to the white section. And so there are a lot of stories in my family about fear of being placed as black in a sort of de facto category, not having the rights that white people have. I heard my grandmother tell me like that when she was young, her own family members would tell her, like, don't play in the sun too long. If you play in the sun too long, you'll get too dark. You're already very dark. So that was very real.
He was actually born in California. I mean, he grew up in California. He had black in him and Chinese and French and all the same kind of bunch of mixture. And he said he was older than me, and he said he used to go to Natchitoches in the summertime, spend with his grandfather down there. And he walked to the movie theater. And back then, because it was that way in Monroe when I was a kid, black people had to sit upstairs above. It was a different entrance, even still downtown, one of those theaters in Western Road. I tell my kids and everybody, this was the theater I went to for 50 cents when I was a kid. I said, you see this extra little doorway over here, and it's real skinny. Well, when you walked in the regular doors and where you bought your tickets, you can still tell the little skinny door, it's the back side of that ticket booth. And that's where the black people had to go up there. It wasn't that way in California. He said he sitting there watching a movie by himself. He was about 10, and he said he kept hearing people talk, and he's looks black, but had green eyes, and his last name's Hongo because that's the part of the Chinese. And so he kept hearing noise, and he said he turned around and he kept looking, and he finally looked up there, and he seen black people sitting up there, and he said he looked around down where he was at, see no way. He said he started getting nervous, going, "Oh, I'm gonna go to jail," and he said he slumped down in the seat, and he said I was scared to death, and so he said when he left the theater and he started walking home, he said, "I was afraid the cops were gonna kill me," and here comes a cop down the road. It was just a coincidence, but being a kid, and he actually cut through a yard and came out on another block. When he came on another block, here comes a car again, and they weren't hunting him, but he said they might as well have grabbed me because I felt like I was done.
She was just hiding it. She didn't want to be associated with it. I guess, when you're in the South and you're part black, you ain't got it easy, dude.
Grandma White she never alluded to anything about her ancestry at all, really, other than she wanted to make sure that I knew that it was French.
The whole thing about it is, and as I was growing up, a lot of things I seen that didn't make any sense. And when I would ask my mother about it, she was like, wouldn't answer me, Picture of her and my father when they got married. And if you look at the wedding dress, you can see decorations of it from Indian heritage, And when you look at the way the belt is around her waist, it's different things like that, And when I try to ask her questions and things like that, she used to always say, "I'm French," never saying that she was of any color because they were afraid. They were afraid, even coming in up into New York. My mother was still afraid.
A particular guy, his name was Ozan Desider. There's a lot of Desideers. I went to school with some Desideers. Probably this guy was their great grandfather or something of that nature. Ozan Desider tried to purchase his property. The government tried to send agents down, and Desider would not sell his property. Probably they didn't offer him very much for it. Even whatever they offered for it, he did not want to sell. So in return, they came back later on at a different time at night time. That time, they used torches. They didn't have flashlights and electricity. They called him out. He come out on his front porch and they said, come help us. There's a guy down the road that needed help with. So he believed what they were telling him. He said, "Hang on, let me light my torch." So he went in the house, lit his torch by the fireplace, and came back out on the front porch. The torch put him as a target in the dark. So they shot him down on his front porch and killed him mainly because he would not sell his land. They feared that that same thing would happen to them. If they didn't sell their land, that they would be killed. So they denied being Native American so that they could stay there. They went into hiding in plain sight.
You provided for me from seed to tree. My faith now can't be shaken. Famine and drought